Welcome to Collaborate, the podcast that's reshaping real estate success. Whether you're a new agent striving for your first big win or a seasoned producer ready to break into the top 1%, Collaborate is your gateway to elite strategies, global networks, and industry-changing insights. Each episode delivers actionable advice straight from the top 1% of real estate professionals worldwide. This is where you learn the tools, tactics, and high-level techniques you need to scale your business and unlock financial freedom. Don't just survive, thrive. I'm your host, Trevor, three-time Icon Award winner with over $100 million in sales volume as a solo agent. And if you haven't been invited to the show yet, get your numbers up because this is a space reserved for the elite. Welcome back to another impactful episode of Collaborate, the premier podcast for ambitious agents focused on scaling their business. Today's episode is one that I know for a fact is going to be high level, value packed, and might even be the TSN turn point if you're planning on making an impact through real estate. The reason I say this is because today we have with us a San Antonio superstar and an overall inspiring dude, Nick Disney. Nick, thanks so much for joining us today, man.
Hey, man. No, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I'll set the stage here. The reason I find Nick and his business so unique and so captivating is because the San Antonio market is basically a battlefield for realtors trying to make it big. I mean, we're talking about the 7th largest city in the country with a growing population of 1.5 million. And with the location and cultural diversity, I mean, San Antonio real estate market is the perfect storm. You have investors pushing to enter the market because the rental demand is so insane. You have vacation homes flying off the shelves. You have new construction going up like crazy. I mean, the San Antonio real estate market is not a place for the faint-hearted. Yet Nick has somehow managed to solidify his name as one of the go-to agents within the area. Nick, what made you decide to jump into real estate? And maybe give us a quick highlight reel from zero to hero.
I think jumping into real estate, the short answer is I just wanted to do a little more. I wanted to control the destiny. I wanted to make my own mark. And I really saw that mostly on the investment side is where I wanted to be at. And so, just started off like a lot of people. You're working your job and you're doing this on the side and you're building them, and then you just work hard and over a long period of time, and then the real estate now is what drives everything and what we focus on every day.
What year did you get started?
And probably it's been about 15 years now, so probably right around 2009, kind of right as that crash was coming out of it, and it was interesting times, and we've had a lot of different interesting times since then.
I was going to say that is an interesting time period to jump into real estate. What was the motivation there, man?
Man, the motivation was, a lot of it was also being naive, but I felt like I understood houses. I knew how to fix things. And I was like, okay, I understood like creating residual income and then things that would pay month after month. And so I was like, how can I do this? And a lot of it was just, I didn't know to be scared at the time when other people were. I just didn't know any better. So I had a few deals go, and it built over time. It didn't start off like a rocket. It just built. And then we've been fortunate to really accelerate the last few years.
So was it a clear plan from the beginning? Because you've kind of just not outside of just getting into real estate, you've got a couple other things on the go that I want to touch on here in a little bit. But was it a clear plan from the beginning on what you guys were going to set in stone, or did the vision kind of grow over time?
It 100% grew over time. You learn new things as you go along. Everybody does. And what I thought would happen at the beginning is just not the way it's gone, but not because the vision was bad or because we couldn't do it. It's just your path changes over time because you learn new things. You find different things have more of a benefit for what you're trying to create. And the beautiful thing about real estate, and I talk to people about this all the time, just because you did one thing today, that's not your thing for the rest of your career. Like, that's the thing you did. You can be super successful and say, hey, well, let me be successful with these other things. I prefer to do that business. And so that's how it evolved into what we focus on now.
And so what is that? Because I know that you've got the Sell My San Antonio House. Now tell me a little bit about that and what that program looks like.
So Sell My San Antonio House is really our main marketing. It's our main marketing for motivated sellers, people that want to sell a house fast, people that want to sell a house cash. And so that's where we get the majority of our deals. Most of them are off-market leads for people who, for whatever their reason is, would like to sell direct to us instead of choosing another path. And people have every reason under the sun for wanting to go that way. But as the website's built its presence to help those particular people, that's where we'll market for our acquisitions. And then once we buy the property, we can decide what we want to do, and that's typically going to be buying it as an investment, and we could do one of several things.
So the Sell My San Antonio House, that is, you're purchasing properties yourself, or your businesses, sorry.
Right, yeah, sure.
So somebody wants to sell their home. They go to sell my San Antonio house, and you acquire the property yourselves at whatever price is agreed upon. And then at that point, you either decide to keep it as an investment or flip it. Is that correct?
Yes, very much, right? So they'll get sell my San Antonio house, and they're usually either looking for speed, an absolute guarantee, because we'll tell them this is not, we're not looking to be the highest price offer that you could possibly get, and people
Yeah.
understand that, and that's who we're a good fit for. But often there are people whose property needs a lot of repair. They need to sell by a certain date. They may be behind. They may be have to move, and some of these time frames are very fast,
Yeah.
and or they just prefer the security of us buying it direct. And so once we buy it directly from them, then we're not buying any more rentals right now, but a lot of them we turned into rental property, flipped a lot of them, and the majority of what we do now is we will buy them, we will make any necessary repairs, and we will sell them, but we will owner finance them. So if we're owner financing them, all we're doing is, hey, if I sold you the house, you'll make your down payment to me and you will make your payments to us just like we were the bank, so that you didn't have to go get traditional financing.
This is a really interesting concept. If somebody else is listening in and thinking, how the hell do I start something like this? Where did this path start? Did you start investing in properties yourself and just buying a few investments here and there, and then it kind of snowballed, or was this the concept from day one?
That's how it started. I was buying a few properties myself and it snowballed. Of course, I had huge dreams as I'm starting when I owned
Yeah.
one house and thinking that I'm going to own all of them. But it started with that, and it started building the rental portfolio and really looking at what you can do on the investment side. I think I I personally am biased, but I believe everybody should invest in real estate. And I think a lot of agents could be great investors, or at least do it on the side of their business, and they choose not to. And I think a lot of times they're missing out on a key income piece that they would be really good at. But so we started doing that, and we built
Yeah.
up the rental portfolio. I flipped a lot of houses along the way.
Yeah.
And when I started looking at financing the houses back, what you find when you own rental property is that the cash flow is not exactly what all the books tell you it's going to be, because there's a lot
Yep.
of
Well said.
expenses, a lot of headaches.
Yep.
There's a lot. I mean, the tenants, toilets, and this stuff happens. It's part of the business. When you sell someone a house and you simply are carrying the mortgage, you're collecting principal and interest just like the bank would. And it's very predictable, and you don't have a lot of the headaches that come along with rental property, and the cash flow is often higher than you
Yeah.
would get with a single family rental. So I encourage people to look, like, what is your real goal? If your goal is monthly cash flow, our note portfolio far outperforms our rental portfolio.
Interesting. See, I love how you've taken this idea of passive income, but you've really flipped the script on it, because you have so many agents who think that they've got to have a portfolio of 10 or 15 or 20 rental properties to make their life make sense. Whereas you've acquired the properties, you've kept the properties, but then you've owner financed them out, which is a much more secure way of doing it. You look at rentals and tenants will come in and out, but somebody who owner finances that property is going to lock in for quite some time. And like you said, that's a very secure, very stable source of income.
It's very secure. It's very stable. You keep the property as collateral for the length of the loan. And
Yeah.
as everyone knows, those properties over time, they continue to go up in value, but you're owed less money. Your investment becomes more and more secure over time. And it's a great way. Our average mortgage note that we keep here, or that we do sell mortgage notes for people that want to buy them, is about $1,500 a month, right? They vary based on obviously the price point, but about $1,500 a month. So it's very predictable when it's done right, and it's not that hard to back into the math. If someone, say, needs $6,000, $9,000 a month, well, how many mortgage notes would I need to own to have that passive income?
Yep.
And it doesn't have the tenant turnover, it doesn't have the make ready, it doesn't have a lot of the headaches
Well, you're
that
not
we
dealing with
see.
the liabilities of those quick repairs.
You don't own it. It's not your
Yeah,
house.
for
You
sure.
don't own, like, it's not your house. You don't own it. You don't
You're
call
still
the
getting
bank
that
to
monthly
come.
income, but you're not having to worry about any of the maintenance.
Exactly right. And to your earlier point, tenants turn over. They don't typically stay for years and years, but people that we own or finance a home tend to stay for years and years. So it's years with just payments every month. And we found a lot of success there as for growing the monthly cash flow.
And you've got no problem owner financing these ones out, because I think that's going to be another hiccup that a lot of realtors have a hard time wrapping their heads around, is if they do acquire these properties and then they go through the owner financing battles and trials and tribulations. What would you say the ease of creating an owner financing scenario is?
I think you obviously are going to learn more over time, and we've learned a lot because we've been doing it for a long time. But you want to look for someone typically who can afford it. We don't typically do people that have terrible credit, but they are people that don't have credit or have not established credit. So when a bank looks at them, they're like, well, you're not here. But a lot of these people make plenty of money. They haven't done anything wrong. They just haven't followed that credit building process. And so I think you want to look for folks like that. Make sure that you get a substantial down payment, because then that also helps secure your investment and people are financially committed to the property because they've given you this down payment. And sell a quality product to quality folks. You're going to screen them through the proper process. And we have everything built out to help us with the screening as well. And it's a great way to create that passive income. And it really gives you a lot of freedom when you do it as well. That's the biggest thing I would tell them. And then the second thing is, people don't realize how easy it is to buy a mortgage note. We sell them all the time. It's not hard. But people are like, no, it's got to be hard. It's not hard.
Yeah.
You can just buy it. And then here it is. And I've already done all the work. So that's the other part that people just, you don't know what you don't know. And I talk to people all the time. They're like, well, you can just, it's the same thing as if you've ever had a mortgage and then a few years down the road, you get a letter and it says, hey, nothing's changed on your mortgage, but now instead of paying this bank, you pay this bank here. Yep. All that happens is that mortgage note was sold to the other bank. You're doing the same thing. We're just doing it on a smaller scale, and it really is not difficult to purchase one. And we found that to be a great fit for folks who have capital. They're not cheap, that have capital around and they think, I'm going to pay cash for this rental because I want cash flow. I'm telling you, this note will cash flow better if that's your goal. And you can just buy them, and it's not hard.
So where would you say, percentage wise and business wise, you make more through acquisition or through buying, selling real estate?
For me, it's all through the investment side now.
Side. Okay. Yeah.
It's all through the investment side now. I think as an investor, like everybody knows, you make your money when you buy. So you're looking for a good deal. And if you buy right and buy what's going to fit your model and what you're trying to create, then that's really going to set you up for success throughout the process. And I would look for things that really accomplish your goals. Right? If your goal is cash flow, or if you're flipping and your goal is to lump sum, those are different paths that'll help get you there. So make sure you really know what's important and it's going to be most helpful for you before you go to dive in and educate yourself, get around the right people. There's lots of really, really good people in almost every area that will help you. But you got to get started too. You just got to get started.
Do you spend most of your time doing multifamilies or single family? And what single family, hey?
Yep. We are all single family. We have a niche, we're focused, and we stay right there in our lane and what produces. I'm not against multifamily. I think you have to be careful if you're not owning the whole thing and you're jumping into syndications, because while they can be fantastic, oftentimes your money's really good as the leader who's ever running the show. And so you want to make sure that you feel really comfortable with whoever that is. And for us, we control pretty much all of the pieces on the single family side. And we know what our input is and what our output is. And so it's been great for us, and you can definitely scale it. And I would encourage a lot of people to really look into it.
Do you run a team?
Yes. So I have a business partner who owns half the business, and he does more. He handles a lot of the operations as far as the rehabs and the sales part. I'm more focused on, it is a very capital intensive business. So we do borrow a lot of private money, and we have a lot of individual lenders and things like that. And I do that, and more on the acquisition side. We have someone who works acquisitions for us full time, and a person who sells our owner finance full time as well. And then like admin and a couple other people that really help our team. And it's grown over time, and we're super busy, but it's self-inflicted, and we're very thankful to all the people that have helped us get here, and got a couple of full-time crews that pretty much just work for us now. So cool. It's been great.
Congratulations. I like that you said self-inflicted. A lot of realtors, the hyper successful ones, they pile it all on themselves, As far as turnaround time goes, because I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, okay, so they acquire a property. From the day they acquire it, and it's very dependent on repairs that needed and so on and so forth. But typical turnaround time between when you acquire a property and when you are able to mortgage that bad boy out.
90 days, right? And so we're typically looking at Yeah, purchasing it and having rehabbed in 30 days, sold in 30 days, owner finance, and then the closing process. So we
Yep.
want to be right around that if we can do better. We found success staying away from the big rehabs, the
Yeah.
huge rehabs. They take too long. They're often just not necessary to make the same amount of profit on something that's much faster.
Too many
And
variables.
too many variables and there's too many things that come up, and
Yep.
so we tend to stay away from those, and we like things that we can be in and out of and have back on the market. And then it obviously takes time to produce the mortgage because you have to follow the right steps to do it the right way, but we're looking to do it 90 days and we tend to land right around there.
That's an awesome turnaround. It's going to come across as very comforting to a lot of people because I know a lot of people they think about acquiring and then renovating and then going through the whole process and don't assume that it's going to be a 90-day process. If you've got it dialed down to a 90-day process, that's a healthy turnaround, man.
It's pretty quick, and I would encourage people to, obviously, if you're gonna do it yourself, let's buffer those numbers and give yourself some more time, but with experience you can definitely do it. And I would also encourage people, especially if you're getting started, you don't need to take on this huge rehab where we're blowing the roof on and putting a second story and building out. You don't need to do all that. Get started with something that's a little more straightforward, a little faster project, and I think you'll be happy that you did.
Do you suggest honing in on specific locations or specific areas or specific communities, or are you fairly widespread?
We're mainly in the what would be the south half of San Antonio. We do some
Okay.
central.
Okay.
And so even in San Antonio, we're niched down a little bit. We'll buy a house anywhere, but specifically for what are you going to do with this property?
Yep.
What is your plan? Rentals. There's even pockets where people prefer to have their rental properties for some of them, whatever the reasons are, right?
For
On the
sure.
owner finance side, we like to sell them at 200,000 or below, right? So that is not the cheapest houses in San Antonio, but it is
Yeah.
our standard blue collar, hardworking family. But we want a certain interest rate, so we need to sell it at 200,000 or below to make sure the payments stay where they can afford the payments. And we've found the most success in there on the owner finance side. So even in San Antonio, we're honing into to spots where we've found success.
So you consider it a pretty community-based business then, where you're not overly widespread. You're well known in your niche market.
Exactly. Yep. We hardly go out of San Antonio, almost never, unless someone calls me and we had to go buy a house outside, but it's very rare.
So if someone's interested in starting a similar business model, what advice would you give them about building a lasting, community-focused real estate company?
I think a couple of things. I think if I could go back in time, I would spend a lot of time making sure what my plan is going to give me the outcome that I want. And whatever that goal is for income or for, is it passive? Is it active? Is it cash flow?
Yep.
There's so many things you can do. And I don't think, me included, was really focused on what my true goal was when I started. And so it's not quite the straight path. And then it's just wherever you want your business to be, like ours is in the south half of San Antonio. You will build over time, but all you have to do is be a good person, treat people right. You don't have to hit home runs. There's plenty of money to be made by doing the right thing, and that will grow your reputation faster than anything, and it will build over time. So I would just stay focused on what you want to create, build your plan to do that, and then always handle your business the right way. Even if there's short-term profits that pop up, it's better to do the right thing for the long term.
Nick, you said that perfectly, man. The most, out of all the shows, all the episodes I've done, the most common theme amongst every high achiever that I've had the opportunity to speak with has been authenticity and consistency. If you can be authentically you and consistently you, and you can do that at scale, there's no way that you're not going to get noticed.
I think you're spot on.
So your business has grown quite a bit though over the last, I mean, it started small and now you've got a pretty sizable business. You've got a team, you're acquiring properties, you've got a 90-day turnaround, you've got systems in place. As your business has grown, how have you managed to maintain that personal touch with clients and partners? Because that's everybody's big feel with scaling. Of course, when I start to scale, the quality is going to degrade. And I don't always think that's true. And so I want to hear your take on that.
I don't always think it's true, but I do agree that you have to be very careful to make sure it's not. And so when you are going to hire people, it starts with, who do you hire? Because do they treat people the way that you would want them treated? And we're fortunate that the people that we've hired that may be more customer facing sometimes than I am understand how to treat people, how we represent ourselves, and what we want the business, what we want the appearance of the business to be. And so that is key, because when you have that person, then you really are maintaining the same relationship. It's just not directly you maintaining that relationship. And I think you don't have to have a 200-person team to be incredibly successful, we have focused on having a smaller team with A players. And those people tend to produce more. They tend to enjoy being around each other more, which helps with your culture. And so I would stay focused on hiring the right people with the right attitudes. And then you can teach them most of the skill sets that you want rather than trying to find a certain skill set and make them fit with your team. We
Yep.
just haven't found the same success there. So I would start with that, and then it does come with always being available. If somebody calls, and even though I'm not there, if they want to talk to me, I'll talk to them. They get to talk to me. So make yourself available. It really will pay off.
I had a high level team lead tell me the other day, one of the biggest pieces of advice they were told is to hire slow and fire fast.
I've heard it, and it's right.
Yeah, and that really it hit home because you really break it down and absolutely, I mean, how many times have somebody hired the person too fast and then taken forever to let them go? You know what I mean? And it just
We've
it
done it.
sets you behind a million miles.
We've done it, and that person is probably not going to be the right fit, and it's probably better for both of you to end the relationship sooner. But we've all probably been guilty of avoiding it, and that's whoever gave you that's really good advice.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What systems or processes have helped you scale while staying true to your values? I know that hiring has been a big one.
I think hiring's been a big one, and for us to also not trying to do everything in house. It just finding other companies that we can align with that are very good at things. People like direct mail. So if we send direct mail out there, I'm absolutely not doing any part of that. I want to tell you what I want, and this company that's really good at that. Yes, we have to pay them for it, but they're better at it than us, and then they stay focused on that. So not trying to do everything here in house. While it will increase your overhead, it will make you smoother, and you'll be able to do more, and you'll be able to do more of the things that you like to do instead of trying to do everything, including the stuff that you really don't enjoy doing.
So when you talk about keeping things in house, what types of things are you talking about? And what kinds of things are you talking about delegating?
Yeah, so like our marketing is a big one that stands out. I used to do all of the SEO work. I still do some of the SEO work,
Yeah.
but we have someone who does all of our paid ads. If I have a question, I talk to them and they tell me, and he's much better at it than I would be.
Yep.
Someone that handles our direct mail, someone that processes our files to create. So when you're creating a mortgage, there's a lot of steps that you have to do and a lot of steps that you want to make sure are good. For the servicing of the notes, when people make a payment, we don't collect those payments here and try to service them. We have a third party. That's all they do is service them and hold escrows and make sure everything is documented and aligned. And when you start, you want to do all that, like rental property. We don't collect the payments. You pay online. You pay through this company,
Yep.
and all those little things that you may think you want to save money when you start, and sometimes you do have to. But as soon as you can get away and have somebody who's better at it, faster, and probably enjoys it more than you, when you allow them to do it, will help you grow that business by not trying to control all those pieces.
Well, yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. It's so true. You got to get the leverage as fast as you can because you're not going to be able to scale. I mean, yes, to being a one-man show, it sounds fantastic, but the key to scaling is finding out how to create more hours in a day. How can you squeeze every last hour out of the day? And the only way to do it is to add more people, because as soon as you add a person that takes over this, or a person where you can leverage all of your social media ads or your paid ads or your payments, then all of a sudden you've created an additional 3 or 4 hours in your day that you can focus on the business, and that's how you scale.
That's how you grow. Yep.
We're going to squeeze the last few minutes out of here. I know that started late and going to end a little bit late. That's totally fine. Before we get out of here, are there any strategies that you found particularly effective when looking to grow your business, and specifically in the acquisition area? Because I think that's the area that people are going to be most curious about, because this is what makes you so unique. Is this is a part of real estate that not a lot of people have their minds geared towards, is buying and selling, but not only that, but acquiring and then mortgaging out is such another layer to this business.
I think the biggest mindset shift is like look to solve problems. I had this conversation with someone today, and they're like, well, I got to find this great deal and I've got to buy it at this certain price, and all these, you are focused on all these things for you. You're not looking to solve that person's problem. The deal will come together if that's what we do, is we solve problems when we're buying the house. Whatever that person's is, if we can solve it, yes, we are solving it by buying the house, but you need to come and look for those problems that you can solve. And that's when you create that win, because they're happy to sell it at a price that works for both parties if you solve what really is their problem. And that could be anything from the house needing repairs to speed to just not wanting to clean it or list or whatever their feeling are. And the same thing is when we sell owner finance. We have people who pay all their bills and would love to own a home, would love it. but they don't quite fit the traditional bank model for financing.
Yeah.
And so we solve that problem, and they're super happy, and they make their payment, and they're happy to make it because they get the chance to own the home. So really think about where can you solve the problems, and and specifically to the acquisition side,
Yeah.
people are motivated when you can solve their problems. So you need to be talking to people and letting them know that's an option if that's the best fit for them. And most of the time, your first deal is probably going to come from your circle, whether you're an agent or they're a friend or a friend of a friend. You have a relationship, so you already have a certain level of trust, and just letting them know that this is an option if it fits, and the conversation starts. And that's lots of times where people's first acquisition comes from.
Dude, well said. Huge impact statement to end the show. Sell the problem you solve, not the product you have.
Exactly right.
Nick, thank you so much for sharing, man. You're incredible. Your journey's been incredible. Your insights with us today have been incredible. It's inspiring to see how you've combined business success with community impact. If I was a listener who was absolutely inspired by what you had to say today and wanted to learn more about Nick Disney and the Sell My San Antonio House, what would be the best way for somebody to get in touch with you?
So you can always get to me through the website, sellmysanantoniohouse.com, but just send me an email. It's Nick, N-I-C-K, and it's the website all spelled out, Nick at sellmysanantoniohouse.com. And if we can help each other, we can work together. I'm always open to a conversation, so don't hesitate to reach out.
Cool, man. Well, there it is. Don't be afraid to reach out. Nick Disney is more than happy to talk about whatever you've got on your mind. Thanks again for joining us in another incredible, insightful conversation. Remember, guys, this is where our industry's top 1% are sharing actionable steps you can implement into your business today. Join us next time for another value-packed show. Nick, thanks so much for having us, man.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in to Collaborate, where we're not just talking about success, we're building it. If you found value in today's episode, make sure to subscribe and never miss out on the insights that could take your real estate career to the next level. And remember, this is a space for the elite. If you're ready to level up and become part of a global network of top-performing agents, join us at the Global Group for exclusive tools, resources, and opportunities to collaborate with the best in the business. I'm Trevor Big, and remember, if you haven't been invited to this show yet, you need to grind harder, hustle smarter, and get those numbers up, because this is a space reserved for the elite.